Yeah, it's so fascinating. Okay, 31 at the time, apart from Greg who went on and Petey, and now that
Yeah.
there's a few guys, but I guess it isn't that early. I was just surprised because your pace was still there. I know there were some injuries that you fought back with,
Yeah.
so that was
Sure.
kind of my understanding. Like that's to me fascinating. I know why I retired. I know
Yeah.
I was not wanting to hit the ground as much anymore. I was burnt out of traveling and kind of the monotony of the one sport. As cool it is to train for downhill, you get a little bit burnt out. So that's why I kind of just asked, like, we're jumping quite far ahead because your history into it, I don't think many know how quick you took to the sport. But yeah, that, like, what is that self-talk after such a crazy career, which we'll jump back to about the results and your preparation, but like
Yeah.
you've been quite far withdrawn from retiring. Like, looking back, do you think you could have gone a few more years? Are you super happy with when you hung up the boots?
Yeah, no, I think I could have gone on racing for a long time because my dedication, my physical capacities, my technical skills never been, I would say, never been the best of everyone out there. But I would say my approach of racing and my mental and my capacity of hard work was something that would definitely pay off in racing. And I could have gone for a long time, but I would say I always like to have like kind of a step ahead on life, and I definitely didn't want to wait and push until the end. I'm a person that likes challenge, and once I have and I reach one challenge, I want to go on. The only thing that I never did in my race career was World Cup overall. And I actually did it in 2023 on my e-bike. So it was not the same goal as obviously racing downhill, but it was something that I managed to achieve with more consistency in my mentality and with my brain, because I would say that at the time it was really hard for me to kind of contain myself of not giving 120% every race. Something that was my weakness was that I was not in capacity to do a race for fun, or a race just to play, or a race just to go get points. Every single race that I did in my racing career was to give my best and try to, combine that puzzle that we all dream about, because it's a unique emotion that when you get in the start, you want to raise your game, right? You want to be right up there in your capacity. It's not a matter of where you're going to rank yourself compared to each other. It's just a matter on that day, that time, with the bike, the physical capacity you have, bring your mental all the way up there to be able to exceed your the heart of what you know how to do. And this is what I was really passionate about. And that was, I would say, my weakness for playing the overall, but it's also what helped me to win some great successes.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. It's often one of life's positive traits that can be your weakness at the same time. So a positive trait that
100%.
helps you boost yourself for these world championship things, the French mentality of optimizing that performance and peaking for the one race, but then using that day to day. You can see, I think now Loic is why he will win less races in the history books is when he's going for the overall. And that's fascinating that you tell me that, because you also mentioned in your career you've qualified many times fastest in qualifying.
Yeah, true.
Um, and you've quoted it's very difficult to back that up. And even from a guy like you who is so optimized on the mental state, I kind of wanted to pick your brain because I felt you've worked hard on that, and that's somewhere where I'm hard on myself. I go, okay, I think that was more of my weakness, is performing when the pressure was really on, not the pace at a World Cup. I could perform at a lower stake race, but it's not because I got to World Cup and the pace went up. I could handle that. It was the nerves at the top of the hill, qualifying fourth. It's quiet at the top. And you've said, oh, okay, I've qualified fastest many times in my career, but to back that up is something unique. So what is that like for you, looking back and be like, you worked so hard on the mental and you were so good at world champs, but then at World Cups, I guess, is that just the nature of the sport? You can't win them all.
Yeah, no, I mean, you got a good point. It's like having the mentality to be able to contain yourself into a certain consistency when it comes down to racing. It requires yourself to ride at 97, 98%, or even 95. That's why this margin needs to be out there. And I would say where you take Lloyd being slow is that the way he actually approaches racing is really built. and is really structured. He's not putting the risk factor so much into the game, which is something that is very different than Amory. Amory will play it all to
Yes.
actually get out there. So I would say I was more back in the days into Amory side, and Laurent is more like Nico Vouilloz side. If you remember back in the day, Nico would be able to nail a run and tell you within a second where he was going to match. Where on my side, I was more, I would say, with a certain engagement and head on fire to make my wings, which was more aleatory than it would have been for someone that is really building the run. And I learned how to do that for World Champ, and I was definitely missing that for the globality of the World Cup when I was racing at the time.
Yeah, it makes sense. Like a season is a long time if you're saying you have to push outside your comfort zone skill wise and certain tracks. And it makes me think that you weren't willing to realize, okay, I'm not suited to this track. But at Worlds, you were able to like go far and beyond, even if it wasn't a track for you. But, like it seems like, say, Loic will be like, okay,
Yep.
a podium is a great race. But it sounds like you sometimes saying, yeah, podium would have been a good race, but I just want to go as hard as I can and
Well,
maybe prove
you,
myself wrong. I want to try win it anyway.
you touched the point. You touched the point is that there was, I would say, maybe a bit too much ego in some races where instead of just accepting the level you were at, the state of things with the mechanical prep that you had. I mean, let's be honest. Back in the days, our bikes were not performance wise at the top of its game for every event. Nowadays,
Yes,
it's a bit different, but back in the days, it was completely different. And for me to accept to be second, third, or fourth was something that was not acceptable. And this was in
really.
my mentality. Like if I know that someone was going to be like, let's say a second a minute faster on one of the track, I would gamble it to try to make it happen. I would not accept that weekend I was slower than him. And I think the maturity of racing, the professionalism that getting to the approach that we got nowadays is something different. Where back in the days, it was more going on with anger, even if we were capable for a wide champ to, let's say, design a bike perfectly for that run that was putting yourself on the top of the game. It was a lot harder to do it for every weekend. And I would say that back in the days, probably only Nico would have that capacity to do so for so many years.